Hello, my name is Gary Mansfield, and this is the Ministry of Arts podcast, where each week I'll be speaking to a different artist. Now let's begin by bagging these bongos.
Yeah, right. Crazy.
Hello, and welcome to the first proper episode of 2023. I hope you all had a good Christmas and New Year, and I hope you're all full of vigour, determination and positive vibes for the year ahead. Well, I should say, if you haven't done so already, go and listen to the last episode, 204. It was a rundown of all the episodes of 2022. And it wasn't until I compiled the list that, well, I realised what a bloody amazing year that we've had. But likewise, what a smashing year we've got ahead of us. And we've got a couple lined up where, to be honest, I can't even believe they've agreed. But enough of the amazing people in the future. Let's talk about an amazing person today. For episode 205, I'm taking you to meet Jemima Sara. Her work is immediate and very much made in the moment. She tells of everyday life, female empowerment, and more so her mental health, which in this episode she speaks very open and honestly about. She has quite a chronic OCD, which she can trace directly back to a specific happening when she was a child, a part of which, as you'll hear, I found absolutely astonishing. And Jemima has one of those amazing personal stories, one of those things where something really quite bad happens for a really good reason. Whether it be stars aligning, a higher being, fate, coincidence, whatever name you want to put to it. And I think it's only right of me to mention that in this episode we do speak quite deeply about cancer. So if you've been affected by it yourself and you don't think you're quite ready to take part in a conversation, or at least listen to a conversation where that is being mentioned, as soon as you hear about diagnosis, just fast forward a couple of 3 minutes. And all is fine today. Well, this episode was recorded several weeks ago, so I did contact Jemima just prior to recording this intro to see if there was anything I could mention that she's got coming up. And she did say, although she's super busy on several different projects, she's got to keep them all under wraps, for reasons she wouldn't even tell me. A proper woman of mystery. But she did mention in this coming March she's got an exhibition in Rome, which I think we covered in this episode anyway. So, please come along with me to meet Jemima Sara.
Sorry, I'm back.
The shop looks good though. Are you coming away from the shop?
Yeah, so I'm actually, my last day in the shop, it was on Sunday, and I'm packing down today and tomorrow. Yeah.
And is there a reason for that? Because I won't go into it.
No, there is a reason. I mean, we can talk about it. I had like a really serious health scare sorry.
No, he's all right.
I had like a really serious health scare in kind of September, and I couldn't poo. And it was ironic because I make loads of art around poo and toilets. Yeah. And then basically I had like loads of tests and a biopsy and all these different things. And they basically found a tumor on my pelvis.
Oh, well, okay.
And it threw my whole life into perspective. So September was basically doing all these tests and stuff. And I was like, what do I really want? What do I like really need? And it was basically not the shop. And I just wanted to focus on doing art and being me.
Brilliant.
I'm happy to talk about everything, but two separate incidents. I basically had a moped crash, and it set like my whole body into shock, and my bowels basically froze. But then because they were doing loads of CT scans for like why isn't she pooing, they found the tumor in a CT scan, and they were like, brilliant. Oh, that's weird.
Right, who'd have thought a motorbike accident would have been lucky, right?
Right? I was like, it's all because of the moped accident.
That's why I laughed when you said you had a motorbike accident. I knew where the story was going. Superb. Yeah. And is it fine?
Yeah, no, it's on the 3rd of October, I basically went in, and it's benign. And I thought I needed surgery, but I think they're just kind of like going to watch me.
Just going to leave it, yeah. Good on you. Well done. Oh, well done. You know, good on you is what I mean.
Body.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things, and then it just slaps you around the face. Like, you could have this thing, and then you're like, oh my God, like my body is like doing a weird thing.
Yeah. And doesn't it take you to a strange place when you get told that you've got that tumor and we're going to find out, you know, whether it's active or not? That little space in your life, which, you know, on the scale of things is fuck all, is the most traumatizing, mind-bending month, if you like.
It's awful. Like, it was so intense. Like, it was 2 weeks. And it was funny because I was sharing my poo story on social media. So I had like loads of people asking me, like, have you pooed yet? Have you pooed yet? And like, people would come into the shop and be like, have you had a shit yet? And I was like, oh my God. And I had to keep updating people about my poo story whilst I was kind of like going under like tests and MRI scans for cancer. And I was like, this is wild. Like, this is what social media is. It's like this fake persona that you have. I mean, I was finding out about the poo at the same time. I wasn't lying, but it was a weird 2 weeks. Like, I was going to London all the time for tests, and like my boyfriend was like, you know, maybe you should stop sharing the poo story, you know, like I don't think it's helping. And I was like, no, the poo story is keeping me sane.
He's giving you something to focus on. This definitely won't go in, but how long was it that you didn't have a poo for?
You can put it in. It was 3 weeks in the end.
Right. Now, I'm sort of with you on this, right? Because I don't know if you know my background, if Becky told you, but my art life started in prison.
Okay, nice.
And when I went from a high security prison into a medium security prison, and I no longer had all of these rules and rigid structure. I mean, it was still a prison structure, but there were so many freedoms and it fucked my head up. And I didn't have a poo for 11 days.
Yeah.
And I was getting concerned, but I was still eating fucking 3 meals a day. And like, you know, all right, it was only prison food, but, you know, I'm still eating regular. And I'm like, I was thinking like, I'm going to sort of grow and grow and grow and burst. You know?
Yeah.
But when it finally did happen, I thought it was going to, sorry.
No,
I thought it was going to rip me apart. And it was just a normal one.
I know, me too.
And I was like, where's it gone?
Literally, my friends were like, tell me about the thing. Like, how did it happen? Like,
was it like giving birth?
Yeah, like literally, like, how big was it? Did you block the toilet? And I was like, it was actually so overwhelming. Like, I had like 3 poos in the day, and it was just like normal size poos. And I was really upset because I weighed myself before and after, but it wasn't even like that much of a difference.
Brilliant. Yeah, you lost 3 stone in a matter of 10 minutes.
God damn it.
Oh, fucking hell. I'll tell you what, this is probably the best start to a podcast I've ever done. But things are good now, yeah?
Oh, yeah, things are good now.
And has it left you scarred mentally? Or are you all right? Have you got a hold of that? Because I know it's a weird rodeo to try and get a hold of.
I think that I'm like, honestly, this sounds like maybe too much information, but every time I have a poo at the moment, I'm like blessing the poo. Like the sensation, I'm like, this is amazing. Yes.
Excellent.
Bodily functions, yes. But then at the same time, I'm kind of like, I'm just like, what is going to like drive my life forward? And I feel like at the whole life, like politicians, impending doom, cost of living crisis, everything, it's just like made me just be like, what do I actually need? And I think it's just like basic needs. Like, I just want to I've been self-employed for ages, and I just want to take annual leave holiday. Like, I just want like maybe like a part-time job where I can like know what I'm going to get paid each month, know that I can go
just take responsibilities away for a little while.
Literally,
mental pressures. Like,
I just want a rest for like 6 months to just like basically be like, oh, I can take a rest and I don't have to work. Like, this is because I don't think it's really talked about when you're self-employed, that it's like the feeling of like you can't take holiday because you have to work because you can't be ill. Like, my boyfriend got ill the other day with the flu that's going around, and I was like downing paracetamol and downing like vitamins. Like I was like taking like 3 tablets of vitamin C a day. I was like, I'm like overdosing myself on vitamin C because I don't want to get ill. And I was like, this isn't right. So I think it's just left me being like, I don't want to live like that anymore, basically.
I mean, you may well go back to it, but
Maybe.
you obviously just need a break from it. Yeah, it's a big thing. I mean, when you've been working for someone for years, then go self-employed, whether it's for an artist, whether it's as an artist, a builder, a hairdresser, what have you, your work rate goes up by about 70%, doesn't it? You know, the hours you work.
It does, yeah.
You don't get any holiday pay as such, do you? I mean, just talking about that subject, ironically, I know you just mentioned it, but you was doing something regarding poo at one time, wasn't you?
Yeah.
And how long ago was that?
Not like really recent. So I do.
Man, it's mad, isn't it?
What?
that you was doing that as a subject, and then that happened.
Honestly, it was so ironic. Like my assistant, she was just like, she was like, this is weird. She was like, this is like, I can't deal with it. She was like, I can't actually understand. Like I was making fake poo in July, and then at the end of August, I was having this health scare. So it was kind of really weird. And like everyone was like, I think that's why I shared it on social media, because a lot of people, I was getting quite a lot of trolls being like, oh, you're just another artist making poo.
Quite shocked.
And I was like, you know what? I don't care.
Turns up you was more shocked than anyone.
But yeah, I love making work around like everyday life. So I love like using things in our everyday life and turning them into art. So I've been doing lots of installations in toilets, because I think putting art in places that aren't like white gallery spaces, or like just places that we go in our everyday life, is nice. And also like it breaks down this barrier. Like I'm an artist and I get scared of walking into galleries or like going to private views. I find them so intimidating.
I'm with you there,
And I can't do it. Whereas if I'm going to a place, like if I go into a toilet and it's like covered in graffiti and stuff, I'm like, this is amazing. Like this is so
just sitting there reading for ages.
Literally, and it's like, Sally did a fart, she stinks. I'm like, yes, like this is it. This is like general expression and really great. And not to like put pretense on it, but it's really, I find it fascinating. So I love doing installations in kind of like mundane everyday places, because then everyone is accessible to it and can take what they want from it, instead of, I love doing shows in galleries too, don't get me wrong, but there's just something I love about putting them in weird places. I think it's just it's interesting because in the toilet you get a mixture of humor, you get a mixture of like really personal things. And like you get like, you know, in the girls' toilet sometimes as well, you know, like you get like, if you've been sexually assaulted, call this number. And it's like, whoa, like this is, but then you get like really funny things at the same time, and like really personal things, and wash your hands after you did a shit, like you stinky person, or something like that. It's kind of like super interesting, but also like, and I love that, like the layers, because that's what we do in everyday life. We kind of go through these layers of like, one minute we're like, yeah, this is so fun, and the next minute we're like, oh my god, I'm so depressed, my life is shit, I don't know. Like, every single day. So I think the graffiti in a toilet does that, and it's everyone doing that. And I get really sad when places paint over it, because I'm like, no.
And I mean, the work that you produce, that's in that sort of vein as well, isn't it? You know, you're writing what you're thinking at that time. If I could ask you a question, and I know that we're a few minutes in already, and most would have got an idea of what you do. How would you explain what you do to someone that doesn't know your work?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I'm an artist.
Good one. Well, question number 2.
Yeah, go on then. So I studied drawing for my MA in fine art, so I focus on drawing, but I do lots of installational work, lots of performances, lots of just kind of like paintings on canvases, sculptures, kind of very mixed media or multidisciplinary. I just love working across different things because I get bored quite quickly. Not in the sense of like I get bored of doing something, but I like to work with lots of different things so that it's appealing to me.
Yeah.
I find life really overwhelming. So I like to make my work really overwhelming. So it's kind of everything all at once. Yeah, that's how I describe it. But it's probably not very good. The topics that I look into are kind of to do with mental health, everyday life, identity, liminarity, and freedom of expression. Yeah.
You mentioned one of the subjects is mental health. Was you using that subject before your recent scare?
Yeah, I've been using it since I started, really. When I first started, I didn't know that I was using it. And it took me a couple of years to realize why I started creating was a literal
I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
To mental health. And I think most people use creativity, whether it be dancing, singing, drama, anything, as a form to help process mental health stuff. And yeah, it was one of my main reasons why I started, for sure. And
if you don't mind me prying, have you had mental health issues in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I still do a lot. So my artwork stems from in kind of 2016. I mean, throughout my whole teenager existence, I had a really bad eating disorder, like many girls do. And then I've moved around a lot. And my main home was in Italy. But in 2016, there was an earthquake. So it kind of devastated my home. And it was like natural disaster central. Like,
was you there at the time?
No, luckily I was away, and so was my family. But going back, it was like I can't actually go home. So it was a really weird time. And like when I did go back, no one really tells you that when there's an earthquake, the land's unstable for about a year. So you're going after earthquake after earthquake after earthquake after earthquake. And so people just move away. Like there's no kind of instant rebuild. It's kind of like the land is unstable.
Settling itself, yeah.
Yeah, and so towns just flee. And so when you go back there, it's like your local town just gone, pretty much. And so that kind of really left me feeling messed up. And I had kind of like incident after incident. I used to live on a houseboat and it got burgled. And I was just feeling like really bad, basically, and I just didn't know what to do anymore. And I was at university at the time and had a breakup, and I was like, and then it was kind of like I just started drawing these naked ladies with martini glasses who loved themselves.
Nice.
And ended up like putting them on social media, and people were like, these are cool. And then I drew like tits on t-shirts and I'd sell them to my friends, and that's how I started. And I can now see why it was a freedom of expression thing that I never had before, but it was a way of coping with all the shit that was happening. Yeah. So that's how I and why I started. But since then, like I have really bad OCD, and so that the drawing thing helps with that as well.
Wow, because I mean, you say you got really bad OCD, but your artwork is so loose. I mean, I don't know what sort of OCD you've got. I mean, looking behind you, everything's in perfect proportion, and that sums up now what I can see. But your artwork is so loose, and it's sort of as if that's the sort of freedom that you're giving yourself to get away from the OCD.
Yeah, so it is. I mean, I have checking OCD. So basically, I'm constantly in my mind in fight or flight mode and constantly scared that something bad's going to happen. And it stems from the earthquake. So my coping mechanism is to like check every single switch, every single plug socket, every single like smell of gas. And it takes me about an hour before I go to bed. And it's so long and so boring, and I can finally talk about it, but I think the drawing is a way of me being like, this is the only way I can like let go of control and like just free the
Yeah,
stuff.
the pendulum swings completely the opposite direction with your art. Beautiful.
Yeah. So it's that's probably why it's so crazy.
And I can imagine your boyfriend is constantly looking at his watch, waiting for you to.
He's so annoying. Like, we've had like, it's been really tough on him, bless him, but he's been super supportive. And I have got loads better. It got really bad in lockdown. But that's because we were like crammed into one environment.
Yeah.
And then recently, obviously, I have therapy and it's got a lot better. And like I've changed a lot with what I do, but something triggers it. And then I fall into it. And he knows now, that he'll go to bed. And sometimes I like don't even bother and I just go straight to bed with him. Or sometimes he'll be lying in bed and I can hear him switch out the light. And that's like he knows that I'm feeling anxious, basically.
Yeah.
Which is like we have like, we talk about it all the time. But I think bless him, he has struggled with this part of me because it's tough. Like me going for nights out, I have to do all of the checks before I go.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to get drunk and then I can't come back and I can't do the checks. It's like it impacts your life so much, and it's so hard to like, someone's like, well, just stop doing them then. And I'm like, I can't just stop because it's a coping mechanism. So it's like, to me, to cope with the intrusive thoughts that come into my mind, I need to check if everything's okay, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's one of those things that sometimes I'm like, I don't need to do anything.
Look at me.
Yeah, I'm healed, baby. Like I always look back to like, before I had this, and I look back and I'm like, how did I live my life? It actually makes me really sad because I'm like, I used to not care, like, but instead, like, it's funny that you say about the 1, 2, 3, 4, because so there's 4 gas hobs on my gas oven. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4. So now every time I check something, I count to 4, and I know it stemmed from the gas 1, 2, 3, 4. And it blows my mind because it's just how basically I've done a lot of work with it and I'm really trying to get better, but our brain creates like trenches. So this trench of like doing the checks is like embedded of like 3 years of me being like, I have to do them. So it's like an embedded trench. Brilliant. And basically I just need to fill that trench up and make a whole new one.
And are you able to do that?
Over time, but you really have to work on it.
Yeah.
So it's like I will check all the plug sockets, but I won't check like the water, for example. And then I can sleep because I know I've done something, but I haven't done everything. Or I'll just check all the fire alarms and then I'll go to bed. And the more I do that, the less I have to do. Yeah, it's just about filling the trenches up and doing and finding.
It's like an addiction, Jemima, isn't it?
It is.
Because you have your fix and then you're fine.
Yeah, no, it is an addiction. Like I'm basically addicted to making sure that I'm safe, which is like really weird.
Yeah.
And like when I try, and my best friend of all time, and she, like, I've known her since I was 8 years old. She came to stay with me after lockdown, and she lives in Italy, and she's like a wild child, like
the opposite to you. Yeah,
literally, like she does not care. And like we used to be wild childs together, so when she saw that I was like really struggling and like doing all these checks, she was like, I'm mind blown. And she was like, I don't understand it. She was like, I just don't get it. And I was like, it's not for you to understand. No. I was like, it's basically a coping mechanism which has now taken over my life, and I just need to find a new way to cope with it. Yeah, it's an interesting one. But yeah, I am slowly getting better, I think, I hope.
And your art does help you with that?
Massively, yeah. So I can just talk about it through my art. And I think also talking about it with someone else, it just makes them understand, because because even with my studio assistant, I went away to Italy for a week, and it was like I had to put up a little board being like, I have OCD, sorry, can you check that the taps are off, can you check that this is off?
Oh, even while you're not there, it needs to be done.
It needs, yeah.
Wow.
So I like had to say to her, look, like this is a thing I have, and I'm really, really sorry. But even if you don't do it, and you just say to me, yeah, I did it, fine.
Well, if you get, sorry for this, but it's fascinating for me. So if you've left your home and you're asking for those checks to carry on, do you leave those checks at home? So if you stayed in a hotel for the night, would you have to do it in the hotel?
No.
Wow.
It's only in my home. This is what I know, it's really annoying. So I love going on holiday or to like friends' houses.
So you're leaving it behind.
So I can like go and be
fascinating.
free. I know. So I like when, for example, like me, I think my boyfriend really noticed it. We went glamping, and we stayed in like this bougie yurt with like loads of our friends. And I was like drinking, having a great time.
Wow.
Didn't care about anything. And he was like, I haven't seen you like this since before lockdown. And I was like, yeah, because we're stuck in our home. And it's basically what's happened is that my home, because I've never really had one, and then I lost my home to an earthquake.
Yeah.
What's happened is that I'm so protected about my home that I can't relax in it. But anywhere else that I am, I'm like, woo, 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 woo.
Wow, that's fascinating. Brilliant. Yeah. Should we talk about some art? Did you have art in the home growing up? Or creativity at least?
No, not really. My both of my parents are really creative. My mum is like an interior designer, so she's like loves, like not like a fancy interior designer. She is very much upcycling, painting, furniture, and buying it cheap and then kind of like making it beautiful. And then my dad was a pilot, so not particularly.
But commercial.
Yeah. So it was kind of like we never really talked about art. I never really went to exhibitions. We went to go and see like a lot of musicals and theatre.
Yeah.
But we never really had art at home in the sense of like, and I never really understood what it was.
So when did you get introduced to it?
Whilst I was at uni and I started to draw naked ladies and stuff.
What was you studying at uni?
I studied puppetry, which sounds really
Is that a course?
It was, yeah.
No strings attached.
Literally.
That's it.
They've cancelled the course now.
Oh, for what reason?
I think lack of funding.
Puppetry. That's mad.
And my parents are like, oh my God, what is she doing? But I really wanted to do drama. So I went to a drama school, and it's a long story, but I hated school, and there was 1 year of school left, and I was in lower sixth, and I went to an open day at drama school, and they were like, oh, we have like 2 places left on the puppetry course if anyone wants to apply. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to ask them if I can leave school a year early and go onto this course. And they basically said yes. So I didn't do my A levels, and I just went straight to uni.
Yeah, well done.
And they were like, but I was young. I wasn't like the same age as everyone else, but it was interesting. And I realized that I hated drama and actors weren't for me very quickly, but I found a new love for art, and making and craft and all that stuff.
Did you complete the degree?
Yeah.
So you fell in love with art, or discovered art. You knew that was for you. How long between finishing your BA to starting your MA? So
I finished my BA, and then I kind of at the same time at the end of my second year, I launched JEMIMASARA. And at the time I thought, I'll make a brand, I'll sell t-shirts, I'll sell postcards, and it'll be a brand. Yeah. And then kind of during the second year, I started to work with like companies, and they would ask for my artwork in their shops, and they would like, there was a big moment when they commissioned me to do all the artwork for a shop in Hong Kong, and it was like, this is really amazing, I can get paid to do this, what, that's amazing. Yeah. And then I realized I didn't really want to be known as a brand. Yeah. And I never really trained as an artist, so I didn't really understand that what it was to be an artist, and to call yourself an artist is quite a scary thing.
But so is calling yourself a brand.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know why I felt more comfortable with calling myself a brand than I did an artist.
Would it be that calling yourself a brand tells you that it's just financial, it's a business rather than a lifestyle?
It possibly. And I think also my family was very much like, creativity wasn't really seen as a career. So it was very much like, oh, I can't do that thing. And then when I went and did my master's, I think so I did my master's 2 years after my BA.
In what? Sorry.
Fine art drawing.
Got you.
And I just realized that I am, and it's like in my blood. And it's funny because I find that most artists, they're an artist, and then they have to make a brand to become like a successful artist, if that makes sense. I did it the other way. So I made a brand and then realized I was an artist. And then I'm now trying to like go back to like edit the brand that I made to become.
And is that an easy journey?
That is really complicated because I've done lots of commercial collaborations, and during my MA, one of my tutors was like, "You're a sellout."
Oh, that's nice of a tutor to tell you, isn't it?
Right? I was like, no.
Wow.
So I was really upset. And for a long time, I was like, I'm just going to stop selling T-shirts. I'm going to stop selling postcards. And I was like, you know what? No, actually, these things are part of my journey and have helped me fund being an artist. And I don't have like a big lump sum behind me to help me just do art. So actually, if I sell 5 T-shirts, that pays for my website. And if I sell like 2 prints, that pays for like my rent. And I don't really want to stop doing that because it's a nice thing to do. And also the accessibility factor of people having your artwork and they can't afford to buy a painting is another thing that's really important to me. So it's complicated because parts of me are like, oh, I'll never be seen as like a fine artist. But then I'm like, I'm not that actually either. So I'm a sellout.
What the fuck? I can't get my head around that. I mean, you go into the shop at the Tate and there'll be, Cornelia Parker has just finished. You go into the shop in the Tate and she's got loads of stuff for sale. Yeah.
So if they can do it, why can't I do it? Is it just because I'm at the start of my journey that I have to be really exclusive with my work? Is that what it is? But I don't think it is. I think it's just mindsets and views and this old way of looking at the art world with it being really exclusive and not for everyone. But it can be, and I think it should be. And I think that for me, creating merch, as I call it now, has been really lovely because it means that like when I had the shop in Ramsgate, like people would come in and they were on the bread line, but they could afford to buy a £1 postcard of my work. Totally. And they connected it with it. And they were like, I love this. And I was like, I'm so glad that you can come in and you can buy this and you can connect with it. And you're going to put it on your wall, or you're going to put it on your bedside table, and you're going to really enjoy it, because that means more to me than making a painting and it being in the back of someone's house that won't be truly appreciated.
Yeah.
I think it really opened my eyes to everyone deserves to enjoy art. And at the moment, not many people do because they don't have access to it. Brilliant. So I'm going to always do merch. I think it's great. Yeah. And also, we live in a capitalist society, unfortunately. And for me to make money on the side and live and provide for myself in a way is also healthy. Obviously, if I'm making like loads and loads of money, then I probably wouldn't do that, or I'd donate something to it just to be mindful of other things. Yeah. But I'm not at the moment. So it's a nice way for me to survive as an artist and also feel like people can connect with my work from all different kinds of backgrounds.
Yeah. And when did you move down to Ramsgate?
About 1 year and 4 months ago.
And was that a good mental move as well once you got there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the problem is that I'd never, even in London, I was moving around all the time. In lockdown, we moved twice, which was really weird. It was so annoying. And so I was like just desperate to like move somewhere and it just be stable.
Set foundations,
like,
yeah.
I just want, this is all I want, is I just want stability. And so we decided to move out of London, and we looked at like Folkestone, Margate, and then we looked at Ramsgate. Well, my boyfriend looked at Ramsgate and he was like, I love Ramsgate. And I was like, okay, fine, let's just move there. And I didn't see Ramsgate. I didn't really see the house before we moved. I think I came to visit once.
And you opened up a Jemima Sara shop studio there. And I see a photograph. It looks like a high-end clothes shop from the outside. And you go in and there's all this freedom on the inside.
Yeah.
And
someone said it looked like a wedding dress shop.
Yeah, exactly that. It was a sort of very dark grey with white solid writing as signage on the outside, and then you go inside and it's craziness. But I think what summed it up, I see there was a little sign on the window that said, "Hello, welcome to my mind. You're free to roam around inside," which totally sums up what that whole thing was to me anyway.
Yeah, no, I think. And it was funny because I made that sign as like, oh, I'm opening, what's like, I need just something to draw people in. And that sign was so popular. Like people would come in and on the floor when people entered, I had, art is subjective. Well, this is my mind. You can either love it or hate it. I don't care. And people walked in and they were like, and they were so honest. They were like, it was like going to an art crit every day, which is kind of exhausting. But people were like, yeah, art is subjective and I don't really like this. Or people were like, yeah, I really like this. I can really connect with it. And they put their own kind of like what they thought art was onto it.
It connected with them,
Yeah. Which was great. But also being open, I think what I found was putting yourself out there in the world like that every day and working in that environment is so exhausting. I'd be painting and I think I was making some massive work about money and how I just really wanted money, and like because it's like a freedom thing and it's not really talked about. And I was just making this work, and this guy came in and he was like, how can you do that? How can you do that? And he was like, like, how can you talk about money like that? How? And I was like, well, everyone's thinking it. Like, we're all thinking about it. We're all like, most of us are struggling right now. Like, why can't I make work about it? And I got really upset, and I was like, you know what? Like, I don't really want to be it was like being in a fishbowl and everyone could look in at what I was doing and pick at it. But I wasn't allowing myself to actually do what I wanted to do. It was I was just doing it for other people and not for me. And then the tumor scare happened and I was like, I'm going to be free.
Well, having a studio in a shop front, it is just people walking past, stopping, people who are not associated with the art, so they're seeing it out of context, as it were. And because it's a shop, everyone thinks they're entitled to walk in and sort of throw their opinions about. And it's a brave thing to do.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do it again. No, not having a studio in a space. Maybe like a shop, like where you can buy merchandise and prints and limited edition prints. But I wouldn't have my studio out facing to the world again.
The work is still being created in the same fashion.
Yeah, so I still have like my website online, and I still sell through like stockists and stuff for my merch. And then for like I work with 2 galleries that represent me, and I do like exhibitions and installations and stuff as well. So I will just be moving my studio into just a closed environment and still selling online, and basically just having more freedom with my life as well. Like a shop is a tie, like it really ties you to a place. And so when you get asked to do an exhibition or something, you have to think, oh my God, like, can you cover on this day? Can you be open? And it was just really draining, and I couldn't keep doing that. I just didn't have the freedom to be like, oh, I'm going to go and walk on the beach and do some journal
Thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no time to yourself. I'm presuming, do you know Margot from Margate?
Yeah.
Right, so she does very much the same in Ramsgate.
Yeah.
She's got herself a shop, or she did have when I last spoke to her.
No, she does. Yeah.
And that was just taking the studio from home somewhere else. She just happened to find a shop front and use that. And I don't know, I've not spoke to her for a little while, but is she using it as a shop as well now?
Yeah, so she
Brilliant.
She is, yeah. And she's just moved actually into a much bigger space, which is really exciting for her. And she's like one of the most supportive, lovely
She's
people.
great, isn't she?
Yeah, she's amazing. I actually went to her as like having a bit of a difficult time. And I went to her and I basically said, like, I don't know what to do. And she just like gave me her time, her energy, like her expertise, and just like, you know, it's really rare when you find someone who's successful and they just want to give and give and give. And she's one of those people. And it was just, she's really lovely. But it is a weird one. Like I work part-time in marketing as well, a day a week. But it just, it's a fucking corporate sellout. How dare I? Honestly, how dare I?
That's the end of
shopping?
That's the end of this conversation.
You're not an artist.
No, it doesn't fucking matter, man. That's what fucking annoys me. You could be doing so much fucking worse, or having to, you know. How about, Jemima, if there was you and 5 other artists, past or present, what would your ideal group show be?
Oh God. Well, at the moment, I love toilets. So it'd be something surrounding that.
Sarah Lucas?
Maybe, yeah. I obviously live in Margate, so near Margate. So Tracy Emin would have to be in it too.
Yeah.
I love David Trigley.
Now I was going to make that similarity between his and yours. Yeah, I chose not to. His artworks are a daily thought.
Yeah.
Just like yours are a daily thought. But I didn't want to make that
comparison
because they're so close. You know?
I get that a lot. I think I look at David Shrigley's business model, and I'm taking his business model as like the merch, the shop, and the art. And I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it, right? If he can sell his merch and he can sell posters, limited edition prints, I can do it, and I'm not a sellout. So that is like, I've taken that business model. In terms of his art, I just love how everyday it is, what you said. But yeah, I don't know. And I also love the use of text. I use so much text. I also just love how, like, if you listen to his interviews, he's just so one word answers. It's just so like, yeah. And it's just like, it's genius. Who else? I don't know. There's an artist that I really love called Lily van der Stoker. She does like massive wall murals. She's really one of my top ones. I really love her stuff. And also the fact that she does wall murals instead of like canvases. It kind of makes it like you can't really buy it, but it's like an artwork. And also to see murals as an artwork is like pretty cool. I find that fascinating. My mind's gone blank. I've got so many.
Now this is one of those hard questions that does put an artist on the spot, because all of a sudden you've got to start thinking about who you admire, who's been an influence, how they might sit with you.
So many people. I mean, Louise Bourgeois, obviously, because of the stream of consciousness and this the kind of psychology behind things. Like a lot of people ask me as well, because it's like art helps my mental health, but it's also my career. So it's kind of like this double-edged sword of, I love doing this thing, but it also causes most of the stress in my life. When I was doing my BA, I had a breakup, and one of my tutors once said, yeah, you shouldn't ever be in love because you'll make shit art. So I told myself that I can never be in a healthy relationship because I'll make bad work. But I think that's really not good. I think
it worked for Tracy Emin, I suppose, you know.
I guess so. But I think that I think now using art as like a way to, and like using humor, I use a lot of humor in my work, to actually figure out a healthier version of ourselves and like actually process stuff is what we're actually doing. Like we're taking a bad situation or a good situation and we're making it into a healthier version of that thing. And I think for me, I've had to change the narrative, because now I'm now in a stable home. I've got someone who loves me and I love them, and I'm like trying to do good art. So I'm like, what can I do art about? But it's about the everyday. Like our everyday is gritty and shitty and melancholy, happy, sad, and they change us so much. And you'll get news one day and it'll push you back down to the bottom again, but you might get great news and it'll push you to the top. But you can still make art about both. It doesn't have to be devastating all the time. It's just about, if you're making work about your mental health and your life, it's just about your life. The best works that have connected to people of mine are the things that are like just so simple. Like I made a work, it was like, sometimes I just sit in my towel for hours and hours and hours.
I saw that one, yeah.
And people came in and they were like, oh, I do that.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
And that's like, the connection. If just something as simple as looking at a picture can bring a little bit of fucking warmth and brightness into someone's day, job done. Literally, success.
Yeah, so genuinely success. Like the one thing I'm going to really miss about the shop space is that when people came in and they would connect with it. When someone, like I had someone actually emailed me and was like, look, I'm into art and I read that you do a lot of art about mental health. Can I come work in your shop? And I went back like, I can't pay you, but like, of course you can come and like hang out with me and we can talk about art. And he was just so grateful. And I was just like, I felt weird because I was like, I'm just imposter syndrome. I'm not anything kind of thing. But the sharing of his story and my story and you sharing your story with me is the thing that keeps other stories that are so important. And it makes me so upset that these stories aren't talked about enough, and the actual amazingness of the creativity world like changes everything and is so welcoming. But I feel like the corporate structure behind it makes it so off-putting. Whereas when you go directly to the artist and you're like, hey, I'm this person and I did this, they're like, that's so cool, I do this, like let's exchange, like this is amazing. But when there's barriers, it makes a person on this pedestal and you can't reach it, so you're like, fuck that, and then walk away.
Well, what you done for that guy, bringing him into your studio just for a chat for a day, for however long, is what Margot done for you. Who, you're a rung or so up the ladder higher than that guy. She's a rung or so up the ladder higher than you. And then, it happened to her as well with the Turner Contemporary inviting her into the shop. It's that same thing. If people above just fucking give the person below a hand up, it just keeps that fucking ladder growing, doesn't it?
It does. And I really am for this community over competition thing. I think we're drilled into being competitive. Like I think we're told that, you shouldn't really share like what you're doing with the next person next to you. But I think it's a load of bullshit. Like
I agree.
My studio assistant, so the reason I hired her was because I got funding to hire someone. And so it's amazing. It's really nice. I can pay for someone to be creative, and it's because they want to be in the creative industry, and she's an artist and she wants to do an exhibition. And I was literally yesterday, I was on the phone to her and she was working, and I was like, so we're going to book your exhibition in for June, and I don't want you to force you to do anything because I know it's out of your comfort zone, but also at the same time I want to force you to do something because it's out of your comfort zone. And she was like, so you're not forcing me to do this, but at the same time you're forcing me to do it. I was like, yeah, exactly. And I know that she's probably really annoyed at me because I'm making her do this exhibition and she's not got much work ready for it, and she's never done something like this at the time. But I really hope that she will look back in like 2 years and be like, I would have not have done it if someone didn't tell me to. And it's the same with me. Like I would have never have done this thing unless someone gave me the permission to do it. And I think it's a permission thing, like you allow yourself to have permission to do something. And I think that's what your tutor in prison was saying to you and the artists that you wrote letters to. They were like, yeah, we do this thing.
Yeah.
That's cool. Here's a catalogue for you. And so then you could actively become involved in it. You were invited to become a part of it.
Well, one of the artists in there, Gary Hume, I don't know if you know of Gary Hume.
Yeah.
I said to him about but the art world isn't for people like me off of council estates. And he replied back, we need people like you in the art world.
Yeah.
I didn't say I'm inviting you in, but the letter that he wrote said, like, you're on my VIP list. You can come into the art world. But what that done to me, when I went out to galleries afterwards with my fucking chip on my shoulder, because I'm this fucking council estate working class, that was me in a gallery. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, I'm not one of these people. And then I start thinking that I'm not a part of that world, and I don't do it so often now, but when I used to, and sometimes when I still do, I think of Gary Hume going, no one can tell me that I'm not part of this world, because I had a fucking invite from someone who's right up there.
Yeah.
And they've told me I can come in, whether you lot don't, whether you lot like it or not.
Yeah.
I'm a part of it. And that's quite empowering,
And I think more people need to be told. And I think it needs to be in education. And I think it just starts as a child. Anyone from anywhere can be a creative. You can be a dancer, you can be a singer, you can go into the art world. You can walk into that gallery and you can go in and you will be welcome. And it's terrifying. Even like I walk into galleries and I'm a creative and I'm like, I don't belong here. And then I leave. And I'm like, this is so sad, because all I want to do is look at the work and like be inspired from it. But because of the people in that environment, I don't feel welcome. And so it's just actually like saying to everyone, like, you are welcome, you are invited. And no matter where you're from or who you are, go for it.
Yeah.
Like literally just go for it.
You've just closed your shop, stroke studio. Where is Jemima Sara today? Have you got yourself a destination, or have you just shut up shop for the moment?
So yeah, I'm moving actually all my stuff to my studio in Margate tomorrow. So I found a studio in Margate and I'm moving it all there tomorrow, which I'm really, really excited about actually. And I've got a few kind of things coming up before Christmas. So I just can't wait to get really working on them and just feel like, for me, stability is a really big thing. So just feel like stable and get a routine together. So I'd say where I am is just like, in my work, I explore liminarity quite a lot, right? Like this transitional period. So at the moment I'm in that state and I don't feel very safe there. So I can't wait to feel like secure.
Well, you've gone from one extreme, which is putting yourself on show, literally opening the door to anyone walking past.
Yeah.
Which is full of dangers as an artist. Now you're going the opposite way, is to sort of not locking yourself away, but
literally
a solo artist in the studio, it will come a point when you sort of realise or find even that little point in the middle, if there is one, that will suffice. Even if it's, you said you liked having the public voice. Maybe it's even just having a fucking market stall every Saturday or something, that sort of. Doing a pop-up.
I think the more I do installation and public works, that's my yearning. Like I'm realizing that actually, like I put a bathroom suite into the Royal Exchange in the summer, and I loved that because loads of bankers came in. They were like, "What is this smelly old toilet doing here?" And I could just talk to them, and they were like, "I don't get it."
That's fine.
But I loved testing their boundaries of like what art was, and what art could be. And like it was an installation where you could get into the bath, and they all got into the bath, like these like prim and proper bankers. And I was like, yeah, get into my bath. And they like got in, and I was like, this is so weird.
What do you think you'd like to do if you wasn't an artist?
something to do with biology.
Oh, wow, okay.
Obsessed with, actually the only A I ever got at school was in biology. So if there was like another career route, I'd probably do biology. I don't know. I love like finding out about that sciencey stuff.
Nice. Could you pull that into your work?
Maybe. I feel like it's a cleverness thing. I'm always like, I'm not clever enough to do that.
Yeah, but then that's what might be holding people back from being an artist.
Well, that's it. That is it's a thing. So I was told I'm super dyslexic. So I was told at school for ages that I couldn't read. So now when I make artwork and have so much text in it, and people come in and they're like, you spelled that wrong, and you're selling it as a print, like people are buying your spelling mistakes, and I'm like, yeah, fuck it, like what? But
it's not. It's a fucking part of you. So you know, if your artwork is a visual representation of your character or personality, that's a part of it. So changing it wouldn't be right.
That's what I say. I'm like, I'm not going to change it. Actually, I'm fully embraced in my spelling mistakes, but it's taken me a long time to get there, because I always thought that I couldn't write. I'm not a writer. I'm not very academic. But then when I first started dating my boyfriend, he would read my master's dissertation and he'd be like, what are you talking about? You can't write. Like, what are you on about?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, I'm not very academic. And he'd be like, shut up. He'd be like, yeah.
And also, how can people see your artwork, be it online or social media?
I mean, social media, it's just Jemima Sara, and then my website's jemimasara.co.uk. But hopefully I'm doing a couple of shows in London soon, and I'm going to be doing a toilet installation very soon too. So,
when's that likely to be? Any idea?
Probably in the new year. I found a location, then lost a location, then found a location. So I just need to kind of go through all the boring planning things.
Well, I think that's all my questions asked. And
thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for your honesty.
No, thank you for having me. And it's been a pleasure speaking to you too. Cool. I'll speak to you soon.
See you later. Ta-ra. Well, hope you enjoyed that episode of the Ministry of Arts podcast. So we wasn't dictated to by advertisers, we decided from the offset to go ad-free, which means obviously we had to self-fund. So we set up the Ministry of Arts Patreon page. And without that support, we would not be able to produce this podcast. So if you like what you hear and you're able to support the podcast, just go over to the Ministry of Arts Instagram profile. You'll find a Linktree drop-down box, which will direct you straight to our Patreon page. And for the price of a cup of coffee, you can help keep us growing week by week. But if you're not able to do that, that's fine, because this content is free for everyone. But leaving a review on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, that really does help us get noticed and anyone else looking for an art podcast. Or even giving us a positive shout out on your social media. Everything is appreciated. But either way, thanks for listening, and until next week, ta-ra.